tell us about the books you've written. You've written a few now. Do you want to give us a bit of an overview of each one?
So EcoCommerce 101, adding an ecological dimension to the economy. That was my first book. Never knew I was going to write a book. My business attorney told me, hey, I think you got something figured out here. Write 80 pages, something just to get it on paper. I wrote 400-page book in 4 months. I went right through it. 2011 when it got published. 3-4 years later when this NCU idea came up, I also learned a lot about governance in between my first book and my second. And that's when you get kicked out of a room for giving an idea, you understand what governance means. And so I did a lot of research on governance and created a new model on how to assess governance. And that's really my second book is, the public, there's really I identified 4 actors: public policymakers, private policymakers, public practitioners, and private practitioners. Those are the 4 realms of governance actors. And you and I wear different hats at different times for those actors. And whichever actor creates a program is how the program goes forward. So that second book is really about how the NCU caters to shifting governance to the private practitioner part. The third book is Collaborative Environmental Governance Frameworks. It's really just a deep dive into governance and kind of like opens up that whole world. So in hindsight, I realized I wrote an ESG trilogy. My fourth book, which I haven't written, would be about the fourth sector. I call it the capital commons. It's not the government sector, it's not the corporate sector, it's not the NGO sector. I see a fourth one emerging from the 90s, and it's called the capital commons. And my fourth book would be describing that. And that's the space I believe we have to step into, because those 3 other sectors have proven that they can't pull it off collectively or individually. And the one other tidbit will say, each one of those sectors emerged centuries apart, centuries ago. It's not like they all came together. Society spit them out as they need them, and we're going to need the next one. That's the big stuff I see coming on the horizon.
Nice. So do you want to give us like a quick explanation of the capital commons there?
What I look at it is cryptocurrencies are going to be the lifeblood of that, and you're going to have multiple ones depending on what your values are. And for the NCU, would be the basis for one currency, but social values and human values and other capitals that are externalized right now. I'm not a fan of Bitcoin. It's a wonderful technology to get us into a new thought. It's not going to be what people think in my mind. So what we're going to do is, I think, design these currencies around small units. So the natural capital unit, I have it laid out of how that can support a currency. So it's really what you have is a grid, in this case, of capital, currency tied to that capital, and then the outputs that are purchased by that currency. And I've laid this out of how I think that's how economic models will be laid out. So that's the capital commons would be what capital are you interested in, and then develop a accounting system and a monetary system to wrap around that. And the NCU is a big one. It covers the whole earth, but you can do this for social capital and any capital that's kind of externalized right now in capitalism. How do you bring that in? And that's really what the next sector is about, I believe, is internalizing the externalities that the other 3 sectors have failed to do. And humans are pretty neat. They're pretty innovative. They solve big problems. We just have this next big one in front of us.
Exactly. I think that is probably a next big challenge as an industry, at least, or as a global race. We need to figure out this. Probably it will hopefully fix a few of the problems that we currently have with the current systems, but there's probably going to be a fair bit of resistance, I imagine, to trying to implement something like this.
Yeah, you do these quietly and you do them small, and if the seed sprouts and grows, good for you. If it withers and dies, you didn't get anything. But yeah, these things are emergent. If I show you an acorn and tell you it could be a forest someday, if you didn't know what it was, you think I'm nuts, right? And so that's what you have to do is you have to find the seed, you got to plant it, you got to get enough people around it. You don't have to tell the world about it. You just got to tell enough people. And once it grows, it grows. If it doesn't, well, that's too bad. Yeah, these things I'm not going to count on big institutions to do these things. This is just an emergent thing from the landscape. The meek shall inherit someday, they say. This would be the one to do it.